What's up, guys? We're here with the F-117 Nighthawk that's been 3D printed. So each one of these squares you can see, like this one's 4M1, 4L1, and they all have numbers on them because they're 3D printed in a print shop and then brought here and put on the leading edges, the trailing edges of the F-117. The reason why is because the actual trailing edges and leading edges are classified because their stealth technology still works today. So we don't want to give that away, obviously. So this whole aircraft, the leading edges, trailing edges, all look like a Lego set because it's been 3D printed. So I'm going to put you up right next to these 3D printed pieces so you can see every one of them. And pretty soon, this will just look like a normal F-117. It'll be painted over, it'll look black, and no one will ever know that it was 3D printed. But the shapes of them are going to be changed slightly so as not to give away any type of stealth technology. Here we are close and personal with the F-117 vertical stabilizer, or it's like a horizontal / vertical stabilizer because that's better for stealth. If you go straight up and down, that's worse for stealth. When you start to move it over to the sides, you get better for stealth, which is why the F-117 was the first aircraft that was stealth to have that. So the Hornets obviously have that, the F-18s, but as far as stealth aircraft, look at this thing. I want to take you in on a special sneak peek inside this thing. So you're basically in the middle of those stabilizers right now. So looking down at them, you can see them kind of the way that they flare out. It's just unlike any other aircraft out there. And they were the first one of its kind to do that. And these are being 3D printed. So that's got the 3D printed trailing edges and leading edges that are then being painted over with that white primer paint. And it's essentially like a caulking type material. And then that's going to be painted over in black. So then this thing will be ready for full display, but you can't display it with the actual leading edges on it, just due to how secret they are. But here's a nice close-up of those. You can actually get a close-up of the exhaust here. You can see the exhaust system of the F-117. Again, like pretty much never before seen footage. So shout out to the Hill Aerospace Museum for letting us do this. Really cool. Again, you can see the pieces, like the different little like Lego pieces down there. Like just insane that these pieces were 3D printed and then put on this aircraft. It's really insane. So we'll give you a peek there. The leading edge, really cool the way that they do this. So there's a full print shop that 3D prints these pieces, and then they just come in and snap them on like Legos. Could you imagine? You just have this for your kid. You're like, all right, today instead of Legos, we're going to be doing an F-117. No big deal. So you can see this trailing edge here was removed as well. So here we are at the F-117 side. So we're at the side of the wing. So we just looked at the tail that's being 3D printed. This is all going to be 3D printed as well, because this is probably even more stealth technology than what you would see in the actual trailing edges of the vertical stabilizer back there. You've got the F-117 engine here as well. You've got a smiley face and a heart for good luck, just in case. But this engine is actually embedded in the fuselage. So they peel open the fuselage and put the F-117 engine inside of it. As we make our way down the line here for the F-117, you can see the wing removed. You've got some electrical wiring going through the wing. So you've got the leading edge here. You can see the different bolts and rivets inside of it. That is what it was pulled away to get that leading edge actually pulled off. And then you've got the point here of the nose, and you've got the engine inlet. So this is the actual engine inlet itself, pulling in air in a stealth way. So you've got the ability to pull in that air from that point, and there's also other points on the F-117 that actually pull in that air as well. So as we continue to make our way around here, you can see this is going to be a big chunk that will eventually be 3D printed, and will take you right to the nose of the F-117, the very point of the F-117. So pretty cool that they're like, yeah, you can have this thing, put it on display here at the Hill Aerospace Museum, but we have to remove all of these leading edges because of the classification level. When it comes to that classification level, this jet was designed in the 70s, and the code name for it was Have Blue. That's when it was super top secret. That's a thing, I think, super top secret. You've got 5 years of operation in the field of the F-117 before anybody ever even knew it existed. It became public in the 80s, but prior to that, it was operating in pretty much every major conflict, and it was doing work. So this thing was built to be undetectable on a radar scope, and to this day the technology in it is still top of the line. So pretty amazing that it was built way back when and its technology still works today. Now when it comes to what this thing could carry, not the biggest payload, but that wasn't really the big deal with this thing. More so it was about stealth and getting into a position where this thing could execute and prosecute targets without being detected. Now, when it came to maneuvering, you didn't want to maneuver in this aircraft because it's so stealthy, but if you turn and you put this jet at certain angles, it becomes more visible on a radar scope. And that's why one of these was actually shot down in Serbia, and it was the only one that was shot down. And rumor has it, it was a fighter pilot flying it, which when you're flying a fighter jet, you're told to evade missiles by jinking, diving, moving all around, trying to run that missile out of energy. But with this thing, all you gotta do is just think skinny and just fly, and the jet itself will not be detected. But if you start moving, when you see missiles firing at you, that's when you can really run into some issues. So counterintuitive to a fighter pilot, but that most likely is why one of these was actually shot down. So here we are again at the inlet. You can see that. We'll take you up into the cockpit as well, so you can take a peek into that. And just the shapes of this thing, you can see that it was just really built for stealth to be the #1 priority of this bad boy. It was also called the stink bug, and that just kind of due to the shape of it, it kind of makes sense. So Nighthawk was the official name, but a lot of the fighter pilots that flew it called it the stink bug. And it's kind of a misnomer to call it the F-117, because this thing is actually a bomber. It's a strategic bomber. It actually has no air-to-air weaponry. So calling it an F just makes fighter pilots feel cooler that flew it, among a lot of different other reasons. But look at the skin of this. You can see the ripples in the skin. An interesting fact about the F-117 is you actually sometimes had to cut open the skin in order to do maintenance on it. Now here we are inside the bay doors, and you can see this one had the nickname of Midnight Rider, and it's got that super cool symbol there. I feel a tattoo coming on. Comment below if you feel like I should get the Midnight Rider tattoo. But just a really, really cool heritage there of this thing being the Midnight Rider. This thing saw operations. It just served America for a long time. So really cool heritage there. There's the bay doors. So you can see those. There's 2 of those, and those house the weaponry of this aircraft. Here we are inside the bay doors that house the armament of the F-117, and you can see where the actual bombs would attach. So kind of never before seen footage here. All right, over to the landing gear. Pretty basic, pretty standard of what you would catch on a fighter. And then again here we've got the leading edge of the wing, and that's removed as well. And now I'm going to show you a close-up of what's actually going to be put where you see the missing aircraft pieces here. All right, so behind me here we've got what was actually created in the 3D print shop for the F-117. I'll give you a close-up here. You can see right R1, and it's kind of laid out right now in how it'll look once it's added on to the F-117. So these are mimicking the actual leading edges of what the F-117 would have. Obviously the shape is changed a little bit like we talked about. And then we've got a box full over here as well. So these are pretty much all the different pieces that will eventually be added on to the F-117. So you're getting a sneak behind the scenes peek at what this F-117 is going to have on it. And pretty much any F-117 that you see on display is going to have the secret leading edges removed and 3D printed leading edges, which is pretty awesome. So now you know. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that breakdown of this 3D printed F-117. Not the whole thing, obviously, but the leading edges on this F-117 are 3D printed. Thanks for watching. Pop over to Patreon, subscribe to the channel, like this video. And hey, if you want to check this thing out, especially after these leading edges are put on it, come to the Hill Aerospace Museum and check it out. Thanks for watching, guys.